Thank you so much. And I've asked him to sing that song because I love it, but Heaven's in My Heart. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, we're going to talk about that and expand on it a little bit today. Heaven in your heart, in my heart, that's your truth. That's my truth. Now, a word about heaven. Most of you probably know already that as we teach and believe here, heaven's not a place or a locality, not out there with the golden streets and all of that. Heaven is within you and within me. It's an inner state of mind, an inner state of consciousness, and we experience it as we develop an awareness of the present, somewhat like what we did when we were singing our chant and meditating and opening our hearts. We access it more and more as we just say, I know it's there, and I'm tuning in because I'm getting myself out of the way. It is the presence of God, by whatever name you want to call it, the presence of immense love, of oneness. It's your truth, and it's mine. Now, our theme for the month is shine. And last week, my title was Simply Shine. It's not that complicated. And you can hear that on the podcast, which you can access via our website. Next week, third part of this three-part series is going to be Shine in the Darkness, shine in the dark times. Today is about shining your truth. Shining your truth. Dr. Ernest Holmes, the architect of our philosophy and teaching, said, the inner light of heaven, my truth, shines through me and illumines my path. This light is my guide and my protection. This light of heaven shines through me and illumines my way. Just as the song said, heaven's in my heart, that's all I need. She sings in the words of the song that Bob sang, I saw a light and realized it was shining from me. Not on me, but from me. So just a brief note about last Sunday when we talked about simply shine. It's not that complicated. It was about recognizing our innate inner light, that's something that I'm talking about now, but and letting it shine, and letting it shine. Again, Ernest Holmes said it this way. He said there's an irresistible potential, and I'm going to call that light, pressing for its self-expression through everyone, and it is without limit. That is, one other way of saying it is God in us. And again, I don't care, and God doesn't care what you want to call it. It's that something infinite. And we let our light shine by simply showing up. This is what we talked about last week. We let that light shine. It's not complicated. We let it shine by just showing up, by being open to the moment, by being open to whatever or whomever is right in front of us. We'll know. It might be a kind word. It might be a helping hand. It might be a smile or an ear that we are going to lend. But mostly it's about being our authentic self and letting our light shine, being present, getting out of our own way. So today, Shine Your Truth is going a little bit deeper, a little bit broader. Wayne Dyer said it this way. He said, truth is not something that you look for, it is something that you live. Truth is not something you look for, it's something that you live. And in the words of Alan Cohen, he said, we are spiritual beings. Let go of false beliefs about yourself so that the true you may shine in all of its splendor. So a lot of people have recognized this, that this light, this something within us is our truth. Now here's what I love about New Thought, Science of Mind, the principles that we espouse and teach here. First of all, New Thought does not tell us how to be. It shows us who we are. It doesn't say what we should be doing. It invites us to express ourselves. Differences, huh? And it does not ask us to bow down to an outside power. It invites us to live up up to an inner possibility. In other words, to be yourself. Because the truth is, your truth is, you are a unique, one-of-a-kind, individualized expression of God, of the Creator by any name. And what does that mean? It means that as you go within, exploring just who you are, exploring that uniqueness that wants to express as you alone, you're tapping into the infinite power and resources of the presence. You're not just thinking harder about yourself. You are tapping into an infinite well of all that you need, all that knows you, that created you out of itself. And each one is unique. It's like this. There's an author named Tama Keeves. I've quoted from her many times. I like the way she puts it. And she has experience with this. If you have a chance to read any of her books, autobiographies, you know she has walked this path. And she said, those fleeting instances of feeling excited about who I am and where I could go with my life. Have you ever had that feeling? Once, maybe a lot. But she said often it is, in the busyness of life, it's just a fleeting instance. But she said those fleeting instances of feeling excited about who I am and where I could go with my life, those weren't moments of fantasy. They were hints of my immense potential, my truth. And about the process of discovering this, she adds, it's just taken me this long to depend on my exuberance more than on my doubts. Can you say that for yourself? Do you depend more on your exuberance than on your doubts? She said it's the certainty within the uncertainty of life situations. That's when we know we're tapping into that inner truth that is ours alone. So what might it look like to shine your truth? Well, I'm going to say it another way today because this is a great metaphor, and it seems like it says it so well, is to shine your truth, is to sing your song. Sing your song. Now, I'm not saying literally, don't get nervous. I'm not going to say everybody go warble, unless you want to. That's fine. But there's something about, as we use this analogy, this metaphor of a song or music, haven't you noticed it's deeper and it's broader and it's higher than our logical mind that wants to control and manipulate and arrange and be very linear in approaching life. When we go into song and music, it's like we open up to something that is often very indescribable. Each of us has our own unique, one-of-a-kind song inside. And your song is who you are at the very depths of your being. And you know you're in touch with that song, that truth, because those are the times when you feel so true, so alive. Your song, furthermore, if you let it, it just flows out from you and it touches every aspect of your life. That is, if we will let it. But it is not specific to one area, one activity. Our inner song is so much bigger than that. And the other thing is, you don't need to wait for the perfect time or the perfect performance arena in order to shine your truth, sing your song. As Eric Butterworth, who was a very well-known unity minister for many, many years and teacher, he wrote that all we have to do is sing our song, and the universe will provide the appropriate arena, the arena that we need, the resources, the venue. And it's not the other way around. It's not you wait and wait and wait until everything is just perfect, and then it shows up. No. Sing your song wherever, with whatever you got, and the universe starts to support that. I found a story about the power of music and song, and it may not be true, maybe just a fable, but I love it because the message, nonetheless, is true. It's a story of a synagogue that was in serious trouble and needing help, and their morale was low, and they just didn't know what to do. They called a famous rabbi to help them sort things out, to, give them answers, give them insights, give them all the answers that they were looking for, and to tell them how to solve their problems. So the rabbi agreed, and on the evening that he came to be with them, every seat in the synagogue was full, and everybody was just eager on the edge of their seat, almost rapt and eager for the wisdom and all the answers, the solutions. So the rabbi came in and he stood in the front silently for what seemed like an eternity. People started to squirm and they were puzzled, and it was a little unnerving. And then, to their puzzlement and their surprise, the rabbi began to sing and dance. He sang and he danced, and he had such joy and abandonment and effervescence and pure delight as he was dancing and moving and singing, and the music started to fill the synagogue, and the singing and dancing rabbi then made his way up the aisle, and he invited the parishioners to join him. And it wasn't long before every member of the congregation was singing and dancing, and the synagogue walls were just reverberating with that music, the spirit of the music and the singing and the dancing. And all evening they ended up singing and dancing with the rabbi. And afterward, they took their seats again, still intoxicated with the joy of the music and the singing and the dancing. And only then did the rabbi speak. Here's what he said. I hope that I have provided you with all the answers to the questions you were asking. And that was it. I love this story because there's such wisdom in here. As the rabbi sang his own song, he knew the people had the answers within them. He knew they knew. And he knew the music and the singing and the dancing just got them out of their own way, out of the way of their own inner truth, so they could find those answers. So your song is your truth. Your song has your answers. And it is easy. It is not a struggle. It feels rather like home when you are in touch with your song, that inner truth of you. That's only you. No one else told you what it should be. It's something you just know. When you're in touch with that, it feels like home. It feels certain in the midst of uncertainty. And it applies to any situation in your life. Again, this is not about, it can be about finding the right career, the right home, the right place geographically. It could be specific like that. But it's bigger than that. Again, when you're in touch with that inner truth, you find that you can kind of use it as your barometer for any situation you find yourself in. And it will be a true guide, a true north for you. Emma Curtis Hopkins, you hear us quote her so often, the teacher of teachers in science of mind, and just a brilliant woman way before her time. She said it this way simply. She said, you will see that you do not have to try to make your truth work. I know there's such a temptation to make it work. She says, you will see that you don't have to try to make your truth work. You know it. You speak it. And it is its own working principle. It has its own energy, its own vibe, as would the infinite. You remember this lovely story about a tribe in Africa. Again, it may be a fable. It may be true. But I love the message of it. And it speaks to the power of knowing your song. And what happens in this particular tribe is that when a woman finds that she's pregnant, she goes out into the wilderness with a few friends, and together they pray and they meditate in their particular tradition until they hear the song of the unborn child. Because they recognize that every soul has its own vibration and expresses its unique flavor and purpose, its truth, uniquely. And so when the women attune to that song, they start to sing it out loud. And then they return to the tribe and they teach that song to all the tribe members. Then, when the child is born, the community gathers and sings the song to the child. And later, when the child enters school, the same thing. They gather and chant the child's song. And then when the child passes through various life passages, moving into adulthood and all those momentous times, they gather around, sing that child's song to him or her. And then when it's time to get married, each one hears their song again. And finally, when that soul is about to pass on from this world, the family and friends gather around that person just as they did at the birth, and they sing that person into the next life. There's that theme, that song. And here's the beautiful part of this. If at any time during that person's life they commit a crime or misbehave, an aberrant social action of some kind, they're called to the center of the village, and the people in the village circle around them and sing their song to them, reminding them of who they are. Because the belief is that this kind of aberrant behavior is not cured, should we say, or productively addressed by punishment. It's a loving remembrance of one's identity. Your song, your truth is like that. It's your grounding, it's your compass, and it comes from the wisdom of your soul. And sometimes they will say, you know, a dear friend is someone who can sing your song to you when you've forgotten it. I've had that experience. Have you? You sometimes lost your way. You forget who you are for whatever life's tumult might be. And a friend unwittingly sings your song to you, reminds you of your song, letting their truth shine. And it's just like, oh yeah, I remember. And when I remember, then I'm on track again. I can move forward. Now, sometimes your song, your truth, may be misunderstood by others. In fact, I can pretty much guarantee it. Has anybody ever been misunderstood? Even when you were doing your level best and you thought you were just had it nailed? Yeah, it can be misunderstood. And that can be very discouraging, of course. But at those times, it's really important to remember that the authenticity and the power and the beauty of your own song is never determined by the opinions, the information, the perspective of someone outside of you. Sure, you can listen, you can, pay attention if you like. I think we all do. But let's remember, none of that touches the power and beauty and clear guidance of our truth, our song. So I'm going to close with a story about just that occurrence when a young woman was misunderstood. She was 8 years old, and her name was Jillian Lynn, and she was unable to sit still in school, or anywhere really, but especially in school. In fact, she'd gotten the nickname Wrigglebottom. And as one of those students who didn't pay attention, didn't focus, the teachers considered her to be a problem child. She just wasn't doing her best, wasn't trying, wasn't obeying. And it was clear that Jillian, for whatever reason, just didn't fit in. So her teachers got a little bit exasperated, and her mother was at her wit's end. And poor Jillian felt hopeless because she was really trying. Now, this was back in the 1930s, before ADHD was a diagnosis that had even been thought about, let alone heard of. So she was just labeled difficult, misunderstood. And her parents were so troubled that they started telling themselves, well, we must have done something wrong along the way. This must be our fault. So it was a pretty frustrating situation. And because her school was concerned that Jillian might have a learning disorder, her mother took her to a doctor to be evaluated. And what happened at that doctor's office radically changed her life forever. So much so that the change that occurred in her has impacted us even today. After the doctor examined Jillian and he put on some music, he did put on some music, which was kind of unusual. He put on music, and then he asked Jillian's mom to leave the room with him. So there was Jillian alone in this room with this music playing. And outside the door, the doctor asked Jillian's mother to look back in and see her daughter. "I want to show you something," he said. And Jillian was moving around that room with the music with such abandon, with freedom, totally unworried by anything, unlimited by anything. And the doctor said, "You see, your daughter isn't troubled. Your daughter is a dancer. And my prescription is send her to dance lessons, dance class." And so her mother did. From then on, this little girl, Jillian, was given the freedom to live from the inside out, to sing her song, to shine her truth. And the result was that she spent her lifetime, her career, in dancing, eventually with the Royal Ballet. And later, she became an extraordinary choreographer, going on to collaborate with Andrew Lloyd Webber on many theater productions, including Cats and Phantom of the Opera. Jillian Lynn wrote in her autobiography many years later about that moment in the doctor's office that changed her life. She said, "They walked out the door, and the minute they had gone and I heard the music, I started to dance. And I even leapt up on the doctor's desk." Misunderstood. And yet that beautiful song was in there to be sung. Reverend Terry Hershey, who wrote about this story, said, "In our hearts, we are all dancers. We are all singers. Every single one of us. It's the part of us," he said, "that responds to the music of life abundantly and freely and unrestrained." You know that part, don't you? It's not often that we let it show up. But it is that part that just responds. We don't make it happen. It just bursts out of us wholeheartedly. It's our truth. But somewhere along the way, many of us lose touch with that, don't we? We give into labels. Those can be just deadly, can't they? People put you in a box and label you. And what you thought was your song, your unique expression, your truth is, well, maybe I better just keep it quiet. Maybe I was off a little bit there. And yet we know it, but we lose touch with it because of labels, because of people's opinions. Some can make either intentional or unintentional comments, and we say, "Oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I was off." We forget and we don't see who we are at our very core and our truth. And so we don't dance our dance, we don't sing our song. The poet Tagore wrote it this way. He's an Indian poet and a mystic, and he said, "I've spent my days stringing and unstringing my instrument while the song I came to sing remains unsung." I've spent my days stringing and unstringing my instrument. Have we done that? Either looking for the right place, the right time, or rethinking and reanalyzing and doubting. Stringing and unstringing my instrument while the song I came to sing remains unsung. So Bob is going to sing for us in a moment a song, "Don't Go With Your Song Still Inside You." Don't go with your, let's just know we're not going to go with our song still inside of us. And so this week I invite you to remember that. Sing your song. Shine your truth. You'll love it. Namaste.